Similar questions that you may hear today, but please welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Osric Chau. We're waiting for you to give your...
Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome. It's good to see you.
I'll answer your questions later about my favorite
Okay.
scenes on Supernatural.
I have so many.
Yeah.
Osric, what was your favorite prank that Jared Jensen played on you?
Oh, I'll let you know about that one later too. Thank you, guys. Oh, man, this is a massive room. Yeah, it's been so nice. I didn't actually look at the guest list before I came in. There's so many people I haven't seen in years, 7 months. It's been really nice to be back. Wow, I guess I will answer some of those questions now that they're gone. Favorite scene on Supernatural, definitely my first scene because it was so memorable. It was running away from Sam. Yes, I got pranked on set. Details later. And what have I been up to? I've been producing a lot. So I moved back to Vancouver, Canada, where Supernatural shot. Thank you. The end of the world was a little scary at the time, and my parents were getting old, and my brothers both had babies pop out of their wives. And I wanted to be around, so I moved back to Canada during the pandemic. I've been part of all these different producing programs, which has been crazy, very, very educational. I'm literally in school, so every day I have like 1 or 2 webinars that I'm on. Everything's by Zoom now, because it's Canada-wide, and I'm just like, you know, I'm paying attention like I never did in school because I never finished because I hated studying. But now that I found a subject that I actually want to study, I'm quite engaged. I'm taking notes. I'm applying these lessons learned to the career, and it's been kind of cool. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of what Kevin is. And so I think this is the one way that I'm similar to Kevin, is that we both believe in education. Kevin definitely did well in school. I did not. I passed everything except for math. But I passed everything else, and but I like learning. I think if I have one mantra in life, it's, you know, there's always something to learn. There's always, and if there isn't, then I don't really see the point to life. So, anyways, that's a quick update on life. Are there microphones for questions? Oh yeah, they're there. Okay. Yeah, feel free to go over there or there if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep rambling on about my life. Which I'm happy to do. My mom came down with me. She heard that I was going to Seattle, and she's like, I would like to come. I said, what are you gonna do there? She's like, I don't know, I just wanna come. So we drove down this morning, we went to Walmart, and I think that was her trip. We might go back to Walmart on the way back. I think she wanted to pick up eggs and milk. Hi there.
So, what monster would you like to fight? As Kevin or as yourself?
Ideally you don't fight monsters. but if you had to fight a monster.
In a perfect world, you know.
Okay, but fighting monsters to what end? To survive, to entertain? Okay.
Survive.
Who's the weakest monster? I'm not familiar with them.
I'm gonna go with vampires, honestly.
Vampires are the weakest?
To me.
Do they get super strength in this world?
I don't think so, honestly. I haven't seen it.
Vampires are the weakest. I guess you just hang outside in the sun. And then they sparkle, and that's all that happens.
Basically, I just wanted to meet you and say, thank you, I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. Yeah, I don't know. Fighting monsters. Honestly, I grew up with like ideas of grandeur of all the monsters I would face someday. Vampires. I always imagine vampires to be quite strong. But you're right. You just go outside and then they can't survive. And unfortunately, I'm more of a night owl. I like to stay in a cave in the dark, so maybe vampires wouldn't be the best option for me. I'm gonna think about that one, actually. I'm gonna have to reassess. Hi there on this side.
Hi. I took a Hollywood type photo with you earlier.
Oh, hi.
And I was wondering, what was your favorite parody or moment that you had with them?
Who here has seen the Hollywood parodies? Okay. Who here hasn't seen the Hollywood parodies? Okay. If you haven't and you like this show, know that there are 2 Supernatural parodies that most of the cast on Supernatural did because we thought it was funny. My favorite it probably was the Supernatural one, right? So when I met the Hollywood girls, I met them in Spain randomly. We shared a cab from the airport to the hotel. I had no idea who they were. They had no idea who I was. We just kind of talked, and they were like underselling themselves. They're saying they're sisters who did like home videos in their backyard. Very untrue. I looked them up later, like they gave me a business card. I looked up their YouTube channel, and they have full productions of these like the highest quality parody videos I've ever seen in my life. Like, you have a set that I'm pretty sure is better than the set that they actually had on the show. You're using like a massive crane, like any short film that I've done pales in comparison. It's insane. So I think they surpass the quality of most of the things they parody, actually. And their hair and makeup is so on point. Their costumes are, again, like it just looks screen accurate. And it's these 2 little tiny girls that play every character. So it's kind of funny too. But when I met them, immediately I'm like, when are you gonna do a Supernatural parody, right? And it probably took like, I think 2 years before they actually did it. They actually reached out to me 3 months after and like, hey, it was lovely to meet you. We kind of wanted to ask you if you'd like to be part of our parody. We're doing The Walking Dead. And to which I responded, so you want me to play Glenn? and I was right. I said yes, and it was super fun. And then, 2 years later, we did a Supernatural parody. And it was kind of one of those ideas like, man, I don't know how these guys are gonna react. I feel like they should jump in on this thing. And I think I brought in Richard first. I'm like, Richard, you gotta see this. Richard's kind of like, he's like a ringleader. If this is a circus, he's the guy with the hat and the whip, right? So Richard saw it and he's like, I'm in, right? We showed Jensen, he's like, oh my God, this is great, they're in. And then all of a sudden we had a dancing room at a creation convention, and like they just set up and we all just like went in and danced. We had no idea how it was gonna come together. It turned out super fun, you can find it on YouTube. And then when they decided to go even bigger on the second one, like we got everyone involved with costumes and stuff. It was crazy. Like to this day, I think it's still their biggest production because it was a logistical nightmare. They had to like fight with like 20, 30 different people's schedules, trying to get them all in one place. It was crazy, and somehow they pulled it off. So that's probably the most memorable, my favorite.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
You've not seen it?
Hi.
I'll send you the links.
I
It's
just
actually
wanted
really
to
fun.
ask you what your favorite birthday memory was so far in your life.
In my life.
In your life.
Wow. So I'm turning 38 soon. That's a lot of birthdays. I feel, I don't know, I don't go out of my way to celebrate my birthday. I think I'm at the age right now where I just don't like to be reminded. There was one time where I was already in my 30s and I was playing a high school character on a playground, and we ran around the circle with all the other castmates. They're like, how old is everyone? I'm like, oh, I'm 15, I'm 16. Oh my God, I'm so old, I'm 17. My name is Osric, I'm going to the bathroom. I'm not playing this game. And I think that was like a stark reminder. I'm like, oh my God, I'm definitely like, you forget your age when you're playing high school all the time, right? I'm definitely past that. I'm playing college now, which is great. But I don't know, I have never really gone out of my way to celebrate my birthday. In fact, I go out of my way to not celebrate my birthday. And I remember growing up, I used to think my family was like super poor, and I would like get mad at my parents for buying me gifts. I'm like, you can't afford this! Return that! And that was my life. Okay, but to answer your question, I do have some memorable ones. Two comes to mind. One was at San Diego Comic-Con, because my birthday kind of coincides with the con every year. I was by myself, Pokemon Go had just come out, and I was walking around San Diego downtown by myself catching Growlithe. And I got an Arcanine! And that was one very memorable one, which seems kind of lame when I say it out loud. And then the other one, I was living in Beijing, China for a couple of years in my 20s. And one birthday, didn't know it was my birthday, was kind of a surprise, like, oh, it's your birthday. I'm like, oh, it is my birthday. What do you want to do? I was out with some friends, and in China, the culture is a little bit different. It's actually quite a social culture, right? So I feel like LA, Vancouver, you kind of go out, you meet someone, and then you might have like another meeting, and then you'll do two things in the day, and you're like, oh my God, it's such a long day. I am exhausted. In China, it's you go out for like a brunch, right? You'll meet someone, and you're like, hey, what are you doing after? I'm like, oh, I'm having lunch, like proper lunch now with so-and-so. I'm like, oh yeah, I know so-and-so. I'm like, hey, you should come, right? You go meet up with so-and-so. They brought a friend too because they just had brunch with them. And then you kind of like go throughout the day, like from meeting to hang out to meeting to hang out. And by the end of the night, there's like 20 of you. And it kind of happens like that every day. It's kind of a weird thing, but like introducing people to other people became like an activity, and it was quite fun. So my birthday came at the tail end of one of these activities. And because we were going through like business meetings, and I was in my 20s, I had my backpack at the time, and everyone had their backpacks. And for whatever reason, they decided it was gonna be fun to go clubbing. I'm not really a clubber, never have been. I mean, I tried, but you know, I don't know. Dancing is weird. Music's not really my thing. I've never had alcohol in my life, so I'm not really like the party type. But we decided to go clubbing with our backpacks. And we went to every club in the city, because there wasn't that many. There's like 9 of them, with our backpacks. And I think it took like 9 hours. And for whatever reason, that was super memorable, because I think we were all stone cold sober because it was my birthday. And it was really fun. I don't know why. I think we got so tired that the delirium made us drunk. So that was a very memorable birthday, because we also kept our backpacks on the whole time. We didn't even co-check them. I think that was the first time I remembered that story. Since that happened like over 10 years ago now. I don't even remember what age I turned. Man, that's weird. Probably in my 20s. Hey there.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
So, after your initial run on Supernatural, you came back lots of times. How was it playing the same character, just different, like in Apocalypse World or as a ghost? Or
Yeah, that's a good question. How is it playing the same character but different? I think I almost forget about everything I've done the moment it's happened, right? So like the moment I finish a show and I move on to the next, I already forgot about what I did, right? And it's probably not a great thing, but it has something to do with like memorizing. Like sometimes you have to memorize like 10 pages of a scene, and then it takes you forever, and it's just so exhausting. And you get done, and then like the moment you're done, you're just like, oh, I'm moving on to the next. I gotta memorize this stuff now. And sometimes like, hey, we're not done, and you have to rememorize it, which really sucks. But I kind of have that. So I think for Kevin, I kind of treat him as a completely separate character on its own. You know, like there are some things, but honestly, continuity isn't my strong suit. I feel like you would probably all know more about Kevin than I do, by a lot, not even close. So yeah, I approach it like a new character, especially, you know, it's almost like a fail-safe, because I'm like, oh, I don't have to remember anything, because like alternate universe Kevin would know, right? And that was kind of how I started the show. I'm like, okay, I'm starting the show, I should watch some episodes. Oh my God, there's 7 seasons? Oh wait, my character doesn't know anything about this world, it's fine, I don't have to do anything. All to say is I'm kind of a lazy actor, and if I don't have to do it, I won't. I was gonna do some homework, but I think the only episode I watched before I started on Supernatural was Party on Garth, and it was not a fair representation of the show. Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, that's great, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. Hey there.
Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Anna. So I basically wanted to kind of ask about like your role in the 2012 movie.
Wow.
Because I remember watching with my family, and I was like, oh my god, it's
That's a
him.
deep cut.
Yeah. So how was that?
Okay, who here knows of 2012? The movie, not the year. Okay, well, 2012, the movie is about the year 2012. Man, that was my first like big role, and it kind of spoiled me for the rest of the time. So 2012 was shot in 2008, came out in 2009. It was about the end of the world Mayan calendar. So it was supposed to end in 2012. We're still here, so it was false. Anyways, it was like a $200-300 million movie that is to this day and probably will always be the biggest movie I've ever done, because they don't make movies that big very often. And it was crazy. I had a supporting role, and I remember like the trailer that I got was like Jensen and Jared's on Supernatural, right? For a supporting character. I was like number 18 on the sheet, and like they give you a trailer akin to number 1 or 2 on a TV show. It's crazy. I thought this was normal. This was like my first job, essentially. You know, we had like lobster tail for lunch. Thought that was normal. Not normal. They had a helicopter shuttle some of the actors from circus to set. Also thought this was normal. So not normal. So very not normal. There's so many things about that movie. I'm like, oh yeah, like John Cusack was there, Woody Harrelson was there, Danny Glover, and we're all just hanging out. I'm like, oh yeah, like these are people that you see on movies. Still, also not that normal. Like there's a lot of movies that are made with like lesser known people. It was such a crazy experience that after that, I think I was kind of a bit of a spoiled brat on every other job that I get. I'm like, why aren't we getting like massive, you know, where's like the prime rib for lunch? Like these, why are things served in styrofoam? There's so many things that it kind of like ruined me for a while, because I just didn't know how to cope with like the normal jobs. Like that was such an anomaly, and I think as a first job, it hit me in all the wrong ways. Like the premiere, like I didn't know how big of a deal it was. Like I flew in, I cheaped out on everything, and it turns out like, man, this is a massive thing. There's so much press here. I still remember I did not know LA. I brought my girlfriend and at the time, and I thought LA was a city that you could walk. And this was pre like Google Maps, by the way. And so we would map quiz stuff. I'm like, oh, it looks so close, we can walk that. And like, we went on a couple of gnarly 2-hour-long walks from like one area to the next. And we broke up shortly after that. Yeah, so many things. Like, I'm the only person on the poster. Did not know that was such a big deal. Like all of these things, my website, I had a website at the time, and it crashed because of the traffic. My web designer was like flummoxed. That movie like changed my life. In fact, it was the reason why I moved to China, because it was such a big hit in China. We had like the Olympics coming into town. I'm like, oh, I don't want to hang around and party for 6 months. I might as well go learn Chinese or something. That movie was pretty big, and I ended up in China and started working on Chinese movies for a little bit. Also very different, as crazy as 2012 was, and as like normal sets are much below the level that we were used to. China at the time was kind of like here, so it was a good taste of real life. I've not done anything even close to 2012 level of like amenities, and again, $250 million. I think they had money to blow. Yeah, that was a crazy experience.
Well, thank you.
I'm glad you watched the movie and kind of liked it. I've only seen it once. I actually don't remember it.
It's a great movie. You did very well.
Oh, okay. Oh, good to know. Thank you for your question. Hey.
Hi. So I don't know if you remember, but Kevin dies in Supernatural.
What? Wait, when? Hold on. Should have.
So towards the end of the series, Sam finds a resurrection spell he can only use one time.
Wait, who did he use it on?
Use it on another hunter, Eileen.
Damn! Ah, come on, Sam. I didn't know that. Oh, that's disappointing.
Are you at all worried about that? He didn't bring you
Now I am. Wow, wait, hold on. Who did he resurrect?
Eileen, another hunter. I think they like get married in the end, but she didn't come back as a COVID or whatever. But like I think love interest instead of someone they kind of accidentally got killed, right?
Sam Kevin could have been a love interest too. All right. Well, that's new. I learned something new today. Wow.
How would Mama Tran handle it?
Probably not well. She probably would have punched him in the face. Wow, I did not know that. I mean, they did reach out and ask about, like, hey, last episode. They reached out to a lot of us about coming on board, and then COVID hit, like, right before the last episode, so we couldn't do it. So they were planning something. Was it the last episode, the Resurrection Stone?
No.
Okay, I'm still bitter then. I'm bitter until I forget about this moment.
You have a long life to live, you know?
Okay. Dang! I did not know that. I could have lived my entire life without knowing. Now I can't until I forget. Wow, okay. Yeah, a little bitter. Okay, that's fine. Thank you for that nugget. Hi.
Hi there. My name is Monica. I'm from Seattle.
Hi, Monica from Seattle.
I wanted to ask, I know before you used to always dress up for karaoke and you always have something very creative. Are you going to karaoke tonight? No,
Yeah, I'm going to karaoke. What's the theme? Feathers? Birds of a feather. Okay, I'll tell my mom to whip something out. I don't know if she'd be able to. Birds of a feather. If there's stuff in the back, I'll put it on. I did used to dress up a lot. I used to be quite the avid cosplayer. Before cons became mainstream, I used to go to them. My first con I went to in high school, there was it was a smaller room than this. It was actually in Seattle. We drove from Vancouver to Seattle. There was about 100 people in the room selling toys and comic books. And there was a $2 admission fee. That was the original convention days, by the way. I don't know if it's that convention, but it turned into Emerald City Comic Con, which is very different than that was. So I was really into the cosplay, but to do it properly, you have to be, are there any cosplayers here? Oh, it's a hard thing to do, because you have to be a craftsman on so many levels, right? You have to be like a leather worker, a metal worker, you have to be able to sew, you have to be able to paint, you have to be able to fabricate all this stuff with all these different types of material and then put it together. And for a while I was really into doing that, and then I had friends that were helping me out with that, and then I'm like, man, I'm spending a lot of my time doing this thing and I'm not even trying to be a costumer. It made less and less sense. And the older I got, the more my back hurt from bending over. Yeah, so I had to step away from it. As much as I loved it, I think my life now is sat in a dark room in front of my computer answering emails. That's the life of a producer. So someday, I would like to get back to it, but no plans in the future. But I will be at karaoke tonight, and if there are feathers, they will be on me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Liz. I'm
Hi,
from
Liz.
Washington. So, kind of had something similar to her, but I would like to say I love Kevin, of course. And the one hill I will die on is that Kevin had it the absolute worst of any character on the show.
Really?
The poor boy never got a break.
15 seasons.
His mama. And even in death he got screwed because of some new rule.
15 seasons and Kevin gets screwed the worst?
He gets screwed the worst. And Adam's kind of maybe a tie, but yeah, pretty much.
Oh yeah, Adam had it pretty bad,
And
right?
Adam had it bad, but
Yeah.
poor Kevin, he was just so young. Anyway.
Adam was born into it. Kevin, I don't know, it just happened to him. Yeah, you know what? usually when you play a character, like Kevin was the first character that I got to play that had like a full-on arc. It was like a home I got to go back to in Vancouver all the time. It was really nice. And usually you wait for like, oh, that's when he comes into whatever thing, and it never happened. He just kind of got punched in the face a lot. So you're right. You're right. I assumed that a lot of other characters would be in that situation. No.
I'm afraid this is I'm gonna
Okay.
ask my question because I'm about to ask multiple, but I'm gonna stick to
All right,
it till
let's hear
then. So actually enjoyed King of Cons a lot, and I was wondering if you had any good stories from the filming.
My favorite stories from Kings of Con. So Kings of Con is like, it's real, but it's not real. Some parts are, it kind of like blurs the line, right? And there's this one, Sebastian Roche. There's a scene with Sebastian Roche. Seb's one of my favorite people. But he was, I forgot what line, but he was talking about like he's like, oh yeah, like as we were doing the scene, he's like, oh yes, that's when I was having that affair with that, whatever heiress, blah, 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 blah. It was like a really long line, very specific. And then Richard's like, all right, cut. Hey, Richard, did you write this in because of that, like, affair that I had with the Pharaoh? I'm like, what? And like Richard's like, no, I did not know you had the thing. So like that crazy, weird, random sequitur that Richard wrote in, and it's like, yeah, I think this would be funny for Sebastian. Like, kind of happened to him. And it was just like a complete coincidence. It was just like so close to the thing that actually happened to him. It's really weird, but that was my favorite moment. I laughed for.
It was insane, but funny.
Yeah. I miss that. This is one of those shows that like you just have so many fond memories with the people. Hey there.
Hi, I'm Trinity. I'm from Seattle, and I was just wondering, what's your favorite project you've produced so far?
Favorite project that I've produced? The firsts are usually like the most memorable ones. They're not always the most successful ones. Most of the time they're not. The first movie I ever produced it's kind of a unicorn. It shouldn't happen this way. Are there any filmmakers here, by the way? Oh, actually there are some. Oh, okay. Well, this is not normal. So, this is how it happened. I went to the Philippines the year before, and I did a movie that was so bad that I got fired from it because I was making a stink. I'm like, why are we doing this? Why is that happening? Why is this? Can I rewrite the scene? Turns out the whole thing was a sham. They had money. They like spent $5 million trying to put on a show for these rich investors, and we were kind of pawns in this whole thing. Anyways, the director gets fired, the producer gets fired. I forget about those things because I got fired. But I was so like annoyed at the fact. I'm like, oh wow, they used us and they didn't even tell us the reason why. And I'm just like, I'm tired of being anyone's puppet. And if I'm gonna make shitty projects, I want to make my own shitty projects, right? So on the flight home with another actor that I think they were trying to fire him, but they got scared and they fired me instead. I was talking to my buddy. Both of us should have been fired. Hey, let's just make a movie. Let's just do our own thing. I feel like we can do this. I have no idea how, but let's just do it. And he was like, yes, I'm in. Fast forward a couple of months. I have a new roommate. We go to Sundance together. Same thing. I'm in the same mindset. Like, these people are incredible. They're out there making movies, but they remind me of us. We can make movies. And I said, hey, roommate, let's make a movie. Let's come back to Sundance next year. And she's like, yeah, okay. Like, how are we gonna do that? I'm like, well, Sundance deadline is in October, August. That means we have to do post-production for about 2 months. That means we have about 2 to 3 months to shoot. That means can you write a script in a month, right? And just work my way backwards. And she's like, yeah. And she wrote like a first draft of a script in a month. I didn't know how to gauge a script at the time. I'm like, great, we have a script, right? And then I took it to my friend. I'm like, hey, we got a script. We're gonna make a movie. And sorry, I missed the part. Before, I'm like, what do you want to do? And she's like, I want to go home. And she's from the Philippines. I'm like, well, guess what? We're making a movie in the Philippines this summer. And so before the script even, I started going around to every event telling everyone that we were making a movie in the Philippines that summer. We didn't have a script, we didn't have money, we didn't have anyone attached. But I was saying it to everybody I could talk to. I don't know why, I just did. And my roommate's kind of nervous, like really, like she suffers from anxiety. She's just like, oh my God, like I don't know if that's true. Like, can you really say that if we're not doing it? You know, all that stuff. And I just get like, no, we're gonna do it. You know, I was trying to like manifest it. And I kept collecting allies through that. So like my buddy that was on the other film, he jumped in. We were at a party and I was telling more people about it, and then I bumped into another friend, Dante Bosco, who you might recognize from the Hook movies, or he voices Zuko in the Avatar series. I'm like, Dante, you're Filipino? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you've produced, right? Like, we're doing a movie in the Philippines this summer. You want to come in? And he was like super drunk at the time, and he's like, yeah. And I took that as a yes, right? And I went around like, guys, we got Dante on board. This is great. Turns out he starts showing up to all the meetings, right? So I'm like, oh, we actually got Dante involved. And then it just kind of happened. We were trying to like raise like $50,000 to do it. We had like a lot of interested people, but no one actually did it. And then there was like, we gave ourselves a deadline, like, okay, we have to like make a decision here, like what we're gonna do. And we couldn't raise the money. And so we were in my friend Chris's living room, and they're like, all right, well, what do we do? Is this it? And I don't know why, I was still in that mindset. I'm like, let's just go to the Philippines, right? And I convinced all of them to buy one-way flights to Manila. And I'm like, look, we just gotta go there and then come back when we have the movie. And it sounded so simple at the time. Now I know not to do that. But it kind of worked out. So we, for whatever reason, we weren't even, like, we were kind of poor. We spent a lot of money on those flights. But we flew to the Philippines. We stayed in my director, like her family was there. So her dad had an office, and we had like 3 cots, and we all like slept like sardines for like a month as we were like going around with the script, but nothing else. Right? And we're like, okay, well, look, should we buy like a little fancy DSLR camera that we can film it ourselves? Like, yeah. And so we bought one. Like, should we just start filming it? And then Dante like eventually showed up, and he connected us with like a local producer. And they were like, oh, you have no budget. I'm like, yeah, it'd be nice. And they're like, oh, let me set you up with some meetings. And we met with 3 of the biggest studios in the Philippines, and they all wanted to give us money for it. And it was so crazy, because again, we're like trying to raise $50,000 in the middle of the meeting of the last one. For whatever reason, Dante also was like, yeah, we're just trying to raise $200,000. And he just blurted it out. And in the middle of the pitch, we're like, and then the response was, okay, yeah, we can make that work. We're like, oh man, we should have asked for more. Anyways, we got like way more than our budget. $200,000 in the Philippines is like a $2 million movie here, right? So we ended up having there's a lot of crazier things that happened that I won't go into, but we essentially had like everything permitted. We didn't have to guerrilla shoot anything. We had like drivers and chefs, like full-on security detail for some of the shots. We ended up getting like one of the top actresses in the Philippines. We actually had a list of 10 people that we wanted to work with, and they all said yes. It was like everything that worked out. Actually, our number 1 said yes, and then she like backed out the night before because something with her management. And then our number 2 choice came in, and I'm like, oh my God, this actually works out really well. Our number 2 choice is kind of our number 1 now. Everything just like aligned so perfectly to the point where we just made a movie, and then we eventually bought our flights back. I remember the pitch. It was such a terrible pitch. I literally told them, like, guys, we're gonna make an art film. We're gonna go into film festivals. You're probably not gonna see your money back, but like, we might win some awards. And I was so excited about telling them that, and everyone said, yeah, okay, that's okay. Turns out, when we were trying to sell the movie, they're like, guys, this is an art film. No one's gonna buy this. I'm like, oh yeah, I did say that. But I was hoping that I didn't know any better, and I did. But I was hoping the other way. Anyways, we couldn't sell the movie because it was an art film, but it was such a magical experience. I would do it all over again. Okay, I'm gonna share one story. There's one day right before our first day of filming that we're like, okay, we want to start, but like the money is in the bank, but it's not like processed yet. So like we can't actually access it, and we're filming Saturday. And like, okay, well, we won't have money to pay people until Monday. And like a couple of the crew were like, we can't start without money because of so-and-so reasons, you know, totally valid. And we're like, okay, what do we do? So we needed $3,000 to start the movie, because if we pushed it back, like the schedule would have shifted, we might have lost our lead, everything would have fallen apart. And so like there was a pivotal moment where we're like, okay, we need $3,000 in the Philippines. Let's just use our, ATMs. You go to the ATM, $100 limit. Financial systems is really strict over there. So apparently we had 1 day to get it. All of us maxed out our cards, and so we had, we have $1,000. We still need $2,000, like now, or we might not have the movie. Like, what do we do? Dante calls up his cousin. It's 2 a.m. in LA. His cousin goes to a money tree. Here's the loop around. You go to the money tree, you send it. I'm like, okay, send it to our other producing friend, Desmond Chiam. Make sure it's an M, Chiam. Everyone writes it Chian with an N. M. You got that? Yes, M for McDonald's. All right, it sends through. We go to the money tree. Yeah, that's Desmond Chian. This actually goes to Desmond Chian. I'm like, oh my God. One set of instructions. So we go to 6 different money trees, begging, like, it's one letter. How many Desmond Chiams do you know? We're in the Philippines. Like, it's clearly this guy, and the 6th one took pity on us, but it took 4 hours to find the right money tree, and that was the moment where we were like, we produced a movie. We produced a movie because we ran around town finding a way to bring $2,000 into this thing, and then we had to get Dante's cousin back. But yeah, that was probably the most magical experience of my life, and I think I will live every day to try to recreate the magic of that. The other benefit of being in the tropics is that mango trees were everywhere. I think I had like 6 mangoes every day, because you're walking by, there's a mango tree, you just pluck it up. And I'm a fruit eater.
Congratulations.
Thanks you for that question. Hi there. Sorry for that long, drawn-out response.
It was fantastic. My name's Jen, and I live in the Chicago area.
Hi, Jen from Chicago.
As a lifelong Star Trek nerd, I would love to hear anything about that experience that you're willing to share with us.
Has anyone seen Star Trek Discovery?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm an alien that. I played a character named Oros. It was such a cool experience. It was during the pandemic, at the height of it. They flew me to Toronto several times to do the fitting. One of the things that during the audition, they didn't tell me anything about the role. They just asked if I was claustrophobic. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Are you gonna put me in a tube or something? No, it turns out it's like full prosthetics, and part of that process is pouring silicone over your head, and then literally there's someone there like doing this so that you can breathe through your nostrils for like 40 minutes. It was very warm, couldn't hear anything, couldn't see anything. So I'm like, okay, I could see like claustrophobia developing eventually. But it was pretty cool. So I think the VFX team said that like the mask that they put on me like ended up being the best that they've ever done. Right? Like everything lucked out. It was so cool because it was like that thick over my face. And I felt like I could control my eyebrows and everything. It was like stuck to my skin so well that I was able to be super expressive. The one disadvantage though is because I'm an alien, my nostrils were up here. They were functioning nostrils, were my nose actually up there. But because of that, I had to be a mouth breather. And that was really, really disheartening because I like to snack a lot. And I remember going on set the first day, full on, like makeup's on, I'm like feeling great, go to a snack, I like pop something in my mouth, and then I'm like, oh my God, I need to breathe when I eat. I don't know if you know this, but you actually have to have oxygen when you're eating too. And it was like so sad. I'm like, I can't snack. And I started crying because I'm like, I'm gonna starve for like this whole week. I mean, after that first day, I learned to I took a deep breath, and then I would exhale. So I got really good at holding my breath and eating. It's kind of like swimming, I guess, minus the eating part. So that was an experience. And then the next thing is if you have any bit of a sniffling nose, guess what? It's not going anywhere. It's going right there. So by the end of it, you're pulling up, and there's just it's 17 hours in this thing, by the way. So it's just ugh. So that was kind of gross. People help you with that. But apparently I was the least sweaty person in it too, which kind of worked to my benefit. Normally it's pretty gross. I could have, if they let me, I might have even kept that. But I kept the bust they made of me. So they made a bust to kind of pour the thing over, and they let me keep that. And that was an experience because I held it throughout the airport, and for the first week I was just putting it around my house, scaring everyone. It's fun when you have one of those. But I loved Discovery. It was super fun. It was my first time wearing full prosthetics. All the actors, directors, it was such a wonderful set. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. So I have a friend who's a super Star Trek nerd, and that pin is very, very coveted, right? I'm I should get it for them because they would love it. Turns out they're super stingy. They give it out to nobody. There are stories where they finish the show, and the series regulars, the showrunners shaking their hand and oh, thank you for your time. Takes the badge, right? No one gets to keep them, right? Did not know this. So I was asking her, I'm hey, anywhere I can get one of those badges? They seem cool and pointy. And everyone was laughing at me yeah, good luck with that. I'm what is it? I didn't know all this stuff. Anyways, during the table read, everyone was involved. The showrunner kept getting my name wrong. Yeah, I have an interesting name. And I'm yeah, that's fine, right? It's but he got it wrong twice, right? And he was so embarrassed that after the fact, I'm right? He texted me apologizing, hey, sorry, I'm yeah, dude, it happens all the time. By the way, is there any way I could get one of these badges? Just feeling very brave. And he's I'll see what I can do, right? And then it took the entire week, but by the end, and apparently he had to get so many approvals and all these things, by the end of the week, he actually got me a legit Star Trek badge, right? From the science center. And I'm looking at it, I'm oh my god, this is you can kill someone with this badge. It's so nice, right? And then I was walking around, and again, I didn't really know Star Trek, but at this point, I'm I know this, right? Everyone was how the hell did you get that? Anyways, that was probably the best gift I've ever given anyone, because it's, he's how did you, and then he told me the stories about how difficult it was to get a badge, or for anyone to have a badge, let alone get one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Star Trek. It makes me almost want to watch the show.
I wanted to ask if you could share a little bit about your experience with the new Netflix Avatar, and if you had any thoughts on the show.
Oh, the new Netflix Avatar. Who's seen the Avatar show? Okay. Well, the animated version is incredible. I grew up watching that. I was fortunate enough to be part of the live action series that wasn't the movie over 10 years ago, which was horrendously panned. This one was done in Canada. So it was Canada's biggest Netflix production ever by a long margin. And they were using the largest virtual studios in the world. So I think that was probably the coolest thing to see. You have a room about this big where it's like a dome. And with a click of a button, you're oh, now you're in a world of fire. Now you're in a world of ice. And it really feels like you're there. So I think during production, usually as an actor, on 2012, it was very visual effects heavy. I was working with blue screen, so you didn't actually know what was happening, and they would okay, now there's a wave coming, and it's a tennis ball that's coming at you. But for Avatar, you got to see the wave. If it was a wave, it would be a wave coming at you. And so I think for performances, it was really cool. My character, I thought I was gonna have an action scene. They actually didn't tell me anything about the character before I signed on, but I saw Avatar, yes, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, I don't get to fight, I just die. I just die really, really quickly and horrendously. Which is cool too. I gave a nice little speech, and that was fun, and it was really great working with the stunt team and stuff. So like I wish my time on Avatar was a little bit more. My saving grace is that twins do exist in the show, so maybe a twin will pop up in season 2 and 3 because they came back to Vancouver. I think maybe hopefully. So yeah, I love that series.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oz, was it good to be back?
Is it? Oh, guys, you missed it. I was talking about my favorite scenes and my favorite pranks.
We watched the whole thing backstage.
Oh.
You did a great job.
Oh.
We're big fans. I don't know if you know that.
I did not know that. I did not know that. Is this it, or are we?
There is just you can't say no to that face.
I know that was a pretty good face.
Yeah. Last one. No pressure.
Okay,
That'll be
all right.
awesome.
Okay.
Well, I'm a teacher here in the Lake Stevens area, and I always wonder what made you decide to be an actor. Sort of tell us about your epiphany moment.
But I mean, I'll keep it quick. But the epiphany was like, man, I really don't like going to school. Honestly, that was the epiphany. I'm like, oh, if I get a job as an actor, I have a good excuse to not go to school. And then I'm like, oh, I should do this more often. And then it just snowballed. Terrible.
I love that you said that to a teacher.
I'm sorry. I believe in education. I just don't think school is the only place you can get it.
I can use your name on my students' pretend resumes to show them. That's it.
I will say, to combat the stigma of like I never finished college or whatever, I do make it a point to learn at every stage in life, right? You know, I said that earlier, but it's because I'm so afraid of being stupid that I'm like gotta learn, you know. And now like I'm pretty much on YouTube tutorials most of my life. I can do woodworking now.
So were you like bad in school? Like as in the teacher kicked you out?
No, I was quite a model citizen. In fact, I won the Good Citizenship Award. I was voted best undergrad role model. I was the president of the student council. I was president of the Vancouver District Student Council. I was essentially a teacher because I taught guidance counseling classes. But I didn't like studying. I spent 16 hours a day at school. I actually loved high school, but I hated studying, so this acting thing gave me a good excuse not to go to college.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, please get up for Osric, Chau!